You are about to listen to an extract from one of the Chavos novels, written for children aged 9+ by the author Anna McCann. The coffee shop. The first week had passed slowly. Charlotte glanced at the dregs in the empty ceramic pot, and then her eyes focused upon the well-used journal and dog-eared notepad beside her. Charlotte tried to ignore the group of men at the table beside her. They were so annoying. Why did they have to talk so loudly? She was sure no one else was interested in their business. She certainly wasn't. She contemplated telling them to quieten down, but instead stood up to get a refill of the delicious frothy coffee. She also thought about how she rather fancied a cheese and ham panini. They did look good, and the ache in her belly reminded her that she hadn't eaten any lunch. Suddenly, startled by a face peering in the window, her eyes were transfixed by his. It was an eerie feeling, and for a few moments she couldn't help but stare. It took her a while to realise what it was that unsettled her. His face was cute, but something was very disturbing. His eyes, yes, those large dark eyes. The pupils were like huge black spheres as they stared through the window at her. Then suddenly, he was gone, pulled aside by another older-looking kid. Charlotte shuddered. Trying to dismiss the image, she ordered her coffee. Dismissing the panini too, she returned to her seat, relieved that the group of boisterous, loud-mouthed men were gathering up their belongings to leave. With her back to the window, pen in hand, she began writing in her journal. Then suddenly another disturbance. From the hotel adjacent. "Get these street kids out of here," shouted the burly security guard angrily. "They make the place look untidy." He grunted. "Cochinos! Gives us a bad impression. Come on, move them on, rapido." His gestures were aggressive, and his eyes were cold and lacking compassion. He lurched forwards to give one of the kids a shove, but the youngest nimbly dodged out of his reach. "Move, esquinkler," he screeched. It wasn't a very endearing term, but still it was one that was often used by the guards at the hotel. The kids, 7 of them in all, were passing by and had stopped for a few moments to rest. One of them, a little girl who had been trailing behind, adjusted her shoes, which were ill-fitting and cutting deeply into her heels. The little girl's feet were covered with weeping sores and were badly swollen. After 2 more steps, she came to the realisation that no shoes were better than badly fitting ones. So she discarded them, intending to continue her journey barefoot. One of the hotel's security guys picked up the shoes, grimacing, as though he were holding some sort of alien being that had just crawled up out of the gutter. He proceeded to sling them into the nearest trash can, careful to hold them by his fingertips well away from his body. The kids moved on, the little one still trailing behind, pained expression on her troubled face. She was a pretty little thing, with olive skin and a mass of thick brown ragged hair, matted and uncombed. Her brown eyes were as big as saucers. Her linen dress tatty and torn, resting just above her knees, revealing them to be grazed and sore. Over her shoulder hung a dirty plastic bag, the contents of which one dare not imagine. She stopped at the far side of a clump of bushes and peered through, brushing aside the evergreen leaves and the tiny white sparkle-like flowers. The aroma from the bush was a powerful honey scent, strong enough to stop anyone in their tracks. Being careful to move away from a rather large, obnoxious-looking bee, which had been attracted by the perfume, she watched the entrance of the grand and elaborate hotel. Just at that moment, a limousine pulled to a halt outside the large, imposing doors. The limousine's long, sleek white body, black leather top and tinted windows looked sumptuous. A rather dashing, well-dressed chauffeur exited, and another equally handsome guy jumped out of the passenger side. He opened the rear doors to reveal a flamboyant, middle-aged woman wearing a mauve silk dress that cascaded over her bony hips. A younger, rounded and shorter, less well-dressed woman sat beside her, as well as a girl of similar size and age to the street kid. As if there was some great urgency, the men quickly escorted the women and the girl into the hotel foyer, leaving the rear door of the limo temporarily ajar. The street kid paid little attention to the women. She just noted that they were well dressed. Now the girl, she was a different matter. Peering at her inquisitively, the kid noticed that she wore a black embroidered velvet jacket with gold embossed cuffs, double lapels and shiny brass buttons, a short black skirt, knee-high red suede boots. She was swinging a red bag, preferring to wear one red glove and carry the other. She looked haughty and self-assured. But under her arm, she carried a tiny dog, the tiniest dog the kid had ever seen. The little dog was adorned with a red bow in its hair, which matched the girl's boots and gloves perfectly. To make it look even more ridiculous, it had a red plaited lead and some sort of red feathery thing around its neck. It had a cute but very pointy face, bulging eyes, and a big black nose that actually looked too big for its face. Oh, it truly was a comical sight. The kid watched bemused as the pair disappeared into the hotel foyer. A gold trolley was wheeled out, and several suitcases and bags were unloaded from the boot of the limo. Each piece of luggage was placed systematically on the trolley. The cases, all matching, fuchsia pink. Well, before the kid could see another thing, one of the older boys ran back for her. "Dolita, Dolita," he said, "don't lag behind. The others have gone." She whimpered, "Well, I'm hungry. Tengo hambre." "OK, well, we'll try and find you some food." And off they went. The limousine engine started, and its sleek body slowly passed them by. It could be seen disappearing in the same direction from which it came. Street kids were rarely seen in this part of the city. Perhaps occasionally, when passing through, they would stop outside the famous coffee shop adjacent to the hotel. Of course, they would never go in. Occasionally, someone would press a coin into their grubby hands, but for the most part, they were ignored. Ignored, oh yes, but not by everyone, although it seemed that way sometimes. Most people treated them like outcasts, a nuisance and an embarrassment to society. Yet, there were those who gave every waking hour to helping them, those with a passion in their hearts, those who had become the friends of the street kids. And this is where my story begins, in the streets of downtown Mexico City. Street kids known as Chavos. Who are they? What are they? What is their story? Well, keep listening and find out who the Chavos really are.